Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court Martial Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty! And welcome to another Court Martial Podcast. I am, as always, your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and today we're going to be talking about NXT Takeover Portland pretty much throughout the whole episode. And I said we because we have a very special guest here today. Please welcome to the Court Martial Podcast, the one, the only, the master of TAW Gaming, the owner of XAW Extremely Awesome Wrestling. He does a bunch of other video game stuff. You should check out his channel. The link's in the description. Joshageddon, welcome to the show.
I prefer Maestro instead of Master.
Oh, well, excuse me. Excuse me.
Thanks for having me on, Sean.
But Maestro was already copyrighted by WCW, and WWE owns WCW, so we
That's right. All right, Master's fine.
So I understand. I will respect your pronouns and call you Maestro, but understand that I might get sued for that.
Yeah.
So we have a hell of a card to talk about. What are your real thoughts on this show? First of all,
I thought it's one of the best ones they've done. There was not a single bad match on the show. There was two things that I didn't really care for, but other than that, it was just nitpicking.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes written down, but I feel like most of those really were me trying to find things wrong with it, because as always, this is a show made by Smarks for Smarks, and that's what we do. You know?
Honestly, one bad thing that I think is not a nitpick, but we'll get to that.
Yes, and I think I know what it is, because I also had an issue with it. I almost guarantee you I had an issue with it. So, we start with the opening match, which is for the North American Championship. Keithley versus Dominic Dijakovic. I'm sorry, whatever his first name is. I called him by his indie name. I called him by Donovan Dijak on my thing. You know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
First of all, his name is way too much of a mouthful. For a guy that talented and a guy who I truly believe will be a world champion one day in WWE, they need to fix that name.
Yeah.
Because it's just bad. But this match was not. This match was very fun to get the pace started.
Honestly, this was probably my favorite match on the show.
I could see why. It had good storytelling throughout the whole match. I mean, it took a while for me to even write anything. One of the things I really liked, and as much as I do, I have an issue with in-ring title match intros.
Yes, I do know that.
And but this show, I will give them credit. This show, they paced them out well enough and only made them for certain events that it didn't feel as nearly forced as it normally does.
Yeah, when they started doing it, the first thing I did was message you, and I'm like, oh, look at your favorite part of the show.
But they did not do it for this match.
Yeah.
They just introduced Keithley, they introduced Donovan Dijakovic, and it was back and forth, but some of these moves that Dijak's been doing.
That senton to the outside on the chair, like, if he would have been over to the left or right for like a centimeter, he'd be dead.
Any poor rotation on that, gone.
That was insane.
There was a lot of precision that he did. That spiral tap, though.
Yes.
That spiral tap looked better than AJ's.
Dude, did you know that, like, someone asked AJ Styles why doesn't he do that anymore, and he responded, I legit forgot how to do it.
But that's okay. That's okay. I think AJ's got plenty in his arsenal, and so if the rumor mill is what it is, and we are in fact getting AJ Styles versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania, I don't think anyone needs to see AJ spiral tap The Undertaker.
Can you imagine Undertaker trying to take that move?
I mean, all he has to do is lay there, but I feel like he just kind of look at that going, what the fuck?
What is happening?
But the only issue is my old school mentality and the brain of, like, we saw so many great spots in this match, but it reminded me how many of those could have been the end of the match just from just how good they were.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not a knock on this match because it's just the modern style of wrestling is you're going to get a lot of that.
One thing in the match that I really liked was one thing I don't like is whenever like someone does a big move and they roll out of it and they no-sell it. Dominic kind of did that, but he grabbed the back of his head off a spirit bomb, power bomb. So that was the one time where I'm like, okay, I'm fine with you no-selling it because you're kind of selling.
Yeah, and the deal,
I appreciated that.
And the deal too is like I understand the roll out of the ring is a great way to like get out of the ring. But I also do agree that it wouldn't hurt to have them sell that moves afterwards a little bit more. You know, because
how in the hell did Keithley get Dominic into a powerbomb position off of a outside of the ring spaceman plancha? Like, how?
That was ridiculous. There was a lot of back and forth. These two have a hell of a chemistry.
Oh my God, yes.
Which spans back to the Indies. I mean, I think I saw these two guys on the same show back at a Northeast Wrestling show. I've talked about them on the podcast before, but they weren't wrestling each other, but they were on the show, and I could tell both of these guys were going to be big. And I think this match only emphasized that.
And can I just say that I love that Keith Lee calls his finishing move the Big Bang Catastrophe?
It's a weird name, but it works with him.
He already has a spirit bomb, and what he's going into is the Big Bang Attack, because, you know, huge Dragon Ball Z fan right here, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, oh, of course.
But I do wish he would just call it the Big Bang Attack, but Big Bang Catastrophe is fine.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there is only a certain amount they could do before somebody's like, hey, maybe we have to sue for that.
Before they get some envelopes from Funimation saying, stop that.
Yeah, we don't need more passing of cease and desist letters than there already is, Maestro. And
yeah, you got it there.
But
Matt Riddle does the Final Flash knee strike. So
yeah, and that Spanish fly, the top rope Spanish fly. Good God, these are two 300-pound men.
Yes.
Doing a Spanish fly.
They're insane. They're out of their minds.
That was literally, and you know what was interesting is this match for the two biggest guys had the most dives.
Yeah.
Of the whole show, this match had the most dives of any match, and considering that we had Balor and Gargano on the show, considering that we had the NXT tag titles on the show, the fact that there were so few dives in this show was pretty remarkable. But man, what an impact they all made through Dijakovic, who I truly believe was the star of this match.
Oh, absolutely.
So, all in all, great match.
Keith Lee did a Hurricane Rana, and I can't figure out how.
Well, you know what I think part of that is that Dijakovic is strong in his own right, so any extra holding or frame that Keith Lee would need to execute the Hurricane Rana, Dijakovic has, where he wouldn't be able to do that with a match against Finn Balor, just because Finn, as in great a shape as he is, just can't do that. He couldn't hold Keith Lee up enough to do a Hurricane Rana. So I definitely think that that's a case-by-case situation with him.
Yeah, these two have magic.
They do, and they're both going places. And so then we move on from that. It was a great match. It was a lot for an opening match, but it was a great match. Portland was hot the whole night. I thought it was great.
I was stunned that Portland was hot for the next match, because after this match I figured that they would be kind of dead for the street fight, but they weren't.
Well, here comes Tegan, Knox, and Dakota Kai, and they showed the package beforehand as to what happened, and I love the hot start they got to. They're just going right into it. They don't do that enough to really sell the importance of a feud, but they really did. I'm already like immediately captivated into it. There was one moment where Tegan Knox did like a cannonball senton where she didn't have to, and even McGinnis was like, she should have just kicked her with this. She had a trash can on her head.
I was thinking, I was like, I think you did more damage to yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say just kick him, and then Nigel's like, why'd you do that? Just kick him. I'm like, there you go, Nigel. I'm glad that you.
And then Phoenix tried to cover for her, saying, "Oh, there's more force behind her senton," and I'm just like, are you trying to say that she's like fat or something? Like.
Well, that's gonna keep that idea in mind, because that's gonna get to my controversial statement of the day, which is coming up. Because fairly, as entertaining as this match was, in my opinion, it was my least favorite match on the card.
Yeah, me too.
And
that German suplex on the trash can though was beautiful.
Oh, there was a lot of good-looking stuff here. First of all, why? Why in God's green earth would you, when you pull out that duct tape to tie somebody to the turnbuckle, why would you only loop that around once?
Yeah, and she only did it with one hand.
Yeah, I don't even mind if it's one hand because she can't move with one hand, but why just once? I can rip out of one duct tape. I'm pretty sure most people can roll themselves out of one strand of duct tape that was very loosely put on. It wasn't even tight.
But I did kind of like that she kicked her so hard that it knocked her out of the tape. I kind of like the idea of that.
Oh, yeah.
But it could have been executed better.
Yeah, it just could have, yeah. It was another one of those, but it would have taken longer to set it up than it would have been to pay it off, which I think was probably what they were doing. They obviously have a time frame to do that. And it just, and then the finish. And I want to know your thoughts on this because I'm just confused.
I don't have a clue.
Okay.
What's your analysis, Joshageddon?
Nothing. So this is, for those of you who didn't watch it, this is what happened. So Tegan Knox is beating the holy crap out of Dakota Kai.
Trying to paralyze us.
Yeah, almost very heel-like, which I didn't understand because Tegan was supposed to be the babyface after Dakota Kai betrayed her. But then Tegan Knox is getting so much offense in that she's kind of looking more like a heel, and the fans kind of responded heel-like to her. She sets her up on a table with a chair in between her neck and goes to do, I don't even know what the plan was for that. And then Raquel Gonzalez comes in and knocks her off and helps Dakota Kai win. And Dakota Kai looks confused, and Raquel Gonzalez helps her, and they walk off to the back. People are kind of booing. People are kind of cheering. And what confused me about this is that it kind of felt like Raquel Gonzalez's save was a babyface save, which doesn't make any sense.
I just didn't know who it was.
Yeah, and I don't know, has she been on NXT before? I don't watch NXT. Has she been on NXT before?
Yeah, but they changed her name. She was Reina Gonzalez, but they changed it to Raquel. She was in the Mae Young Classic.
Okay.
So they changed her name, which is why I was confused. But I did recognize her. It's just that she has no relation that we can see to this feud. And it just felt very random.
And even Dakota Kai was confused. And for a match like a street fight, it just felt out of place.
The finish, though, the double choke slam on the table, not through the table, that looked brutal.
Well, and here comes my controversial statement, and I know it's going to be controversial, so I'm prepared to take this heat.
Oh dear.
Women should not use tables in matches. Mm-hmm. Period. It is nothing personal. They are not heavy enough. They are not heavy enough to break through a pre-cut table. It is not a knock, because I like those women, but use the announce table that's very flimsy and very easily goes down.
Get like smaller tables.
Or cut it in two places or something. But right now, the current formula of just using women on tables you prepared normally for men is just not working. There is several examples of the table not breaking when it comes to women. It is not a knock. I love women's wrestling. But in a match like that, when something like that happens, it takes you out of the moment.
Yeah. And it also probably hurts a lot more than if the table just broke.
Absolutely, because there's no cushion to the fall.
That damn thing.
Yeah. And it's really just a hazard for them. And it just like, I remember that Hell in a Cell match. You mentioned Sasha and Charlotte. That Hell in a Cell match was great, but the momentum died when Sasha couldn't go through that table. It was.
Yeah, I actually very much agree with that. Women just, again, it's not a knock against women.
No.
It's just biology. It's like they literally can't break the table.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think that what was great about this street fight is you felt the intensity of the feud. Mm-hmm. But then you miss a table spot like that, and it just takes the whole energy out of the place. And Portland was so hot up to that point. But even they were confused, and it deflated them.
It made me think also, like, can you imagine if there was no Reina Gonzalez and they actually did a spot where Tegan kills Dakota? Can you imagine if she jumped on?
Yeah, that would have been horrifying.
And the table not break anyway?
Well, and that would have been even more dangerous. especially with her neck in the chair. God forbid she hits Dakota Kai, the table doesn't break, they both slide, her elbow slides and really jams her in the throat with that chair. You know, it's like, I don't want, in no way.
Okay, TLC 2010, do you remember this? It was Natalya and Beth Phoenix versus Laycool. Natalya shoved both Michelle McCool and Layla on a table. 2 women, the table did not break.
Yeah.
2 grown women.
It's just, it needs to be addressed.
That worked.
You know, it's just something that, and it's, again, it's not a knock. It's just either fix the way you do the tables or just move on from table spots and do other stuff, because you all like doing the other stuff and the other stuff looks good.
Yeah.
You know, use what you know works. That's my whole point.
Yeah, but other than that, I very much enjoyed the match.
The match was fine. It was just an odd finish, and the crowd felt weird, and I felt weird, but for that to be the worst match on the show is saying a lot.
Yeah.
So then, and we're not even halfway through here, but we reach our third match, and it's almost, in a weird way, it's almost better that they actually did deflate Portland a little bit, because it gave them means to rise back up for this match. Grudge match between the man who put NXT on the map, allegedly, and the guy who brought NXT to new heights, allegedly, Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano. Thoughts?
I thought it was really good, but I think it went on a little too long.
Agreed. I thought I thought the match was good. Now, you know this, Mr. Geddon, Maestro Geddon, excuse me.
Maestro Geddon.
And I don't know how much I've shared this, but I am really not a fan of Finn Balor. I can't get into him, and I don't know what it is. Like, he's got a good look, and he knows how to work, and his matches are captivating. I definitely like him a lot more as a heel than I ever did a babyface. But it's just, I can't get into him. And it's not a hatred. He's just not for me.
I think the way you're describing, like you say, he's definitely more interesting as a heel, is because as a heel he's more intense. Maybe when you watch his matches, you just don't get that intensity from him, so you can't really get invested.
Maybe it's like, but I've also never bought Balor as a come from behind guy either. You know, he's in this weird place where he looks great, but he doesn't feel like he's the underdog in any of these matches he's supposed to have. And obviously this one was not that, because Gargano's smaller than Balor. But and this is also, just so you kiddos at home who are listening know, Balor, as we're talking about him, this is going to be our superstar spotlight is Finn Balor. So before we get into this match, let's talk about Finn Balor for a little bit, because he's such an interesting wrestler from his origins to what you would call from his original NXT run to the bomb that was, at least in my opinion, that was his main roster run, and now he's back in NXT.
I agree with you on his main roster run being a dud, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he immediately got injured.
That was just tough luck.
Yeah,
that's just tough luck.
It wasn't really anyone's fault.
No, it really wasn't. And they tried to build him back up, but then they went with the whole like PC pandering route with him.
Yeah,
and even though he was in, I think, the best match that night, which was Miz and what was it? Miz, Balor, and Rollins for the Intercontinental title at Mania.
Yeah, it was Miz, Balor, and Rollins.
Yeah, which was, I think, the best match on that particular WrestleMania. I think also the PC pandering, him breaking into the main roster with the PC pandering was annoying.
Yes.
But in a weird way, he's incredibly over. Either way, you know, people really like Finn Balor.
I love the guy. The only thing is, I just think he has an unfortunate first name. Like, have you noticed that he's never, like, used his first name in any wrestling? His first name's Fergal.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but that's an unfortunate first name.
I like how they gave him the Prince, though, now.
Yes.
As they made a subtle wink. The subtle wink to New Japan is always nice. And you always notice it's always like Triple H who's doing it. Mm-hmm. He's like, go ahead and let's give him the Prince, you know. And that's something that Vince will eventually get his hands on and be like, ooh, I like that idea. Let's give him a little teeny crown.
I love that they brought the Bloody Sunday back.
It's
the 1916.
Yes, and of course Vince's fear of anything blood, except for when he thinks it's necessary.
Unless he wants Shayna Baszler to be a vampire for some reason.
Or just Brock Lesnar just tear Randy Orton's skull off.
Just put a hole in Randy Orton's head.
Yeah. But
Are you accusing Vince McMahon of not being consistent, Sean?
I would not do that, but maybe. As always, as our good friend Uncle Dave would say, card is subject to change, and consider this purely speculation. But in any event, some of your best Balor matches.
I think one of his best matches that I've seen, because I haven't seen a lot of his New Japan stuff, because again, when he
Neither
was
have
I was more WWE oriented for a little while.
Same.
But I loved his match against Adrian Neville in NXT, that #1 contender match. I think it was Takeover Rivals.
I think so.
That match was awesome.
Yep.
But I think probably my favorite match of his, besides the Adrian Neville one, was him versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. The first match for the Universal title.
It's a shame they just crapped on the belt that whole match.
Yeah. Literally every time
it was a good match.
Hand with the belt, the crowd just booed like crazy.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Which now it's so interesting because yes, the red belt was bad, but now it's the blue belt, and everyone's like, "Oh, I love blue."
It looks better.
So
I don't know why.
you know, it's one of those weird psychologically satisfying colors. So as far as Balor, for me, I loved his feud with Joe. That was he and Joe, and that's because I really love Joe. You know, I could have taken or left Balor, but Joe got some of the best out of Balor in his current WWE run, I think.
I love their steel cage match at Takeover the End.
And I like how creative Balor got with the different entrances during their feud. Because obviously him with the Demon is great. I also hate regular Finn. I love the Demon. I think the Demon is a great gimmick. And it's something that, for as infrequently as it's taken out, is money. I love it. But I hate regular Balor. It's the weirdest thing.
Definitely more interesting as the Demon.
Yeah, and I also feel like I hope to see the Demon verse. Well, no, we're not going to see Balor and Gargano again, and we'll talk about that later. But this Balor is a guy who, like, his match with Lesnar was great too. You know, it's like I can account a lot of Balor matches that were good that I just don't like, but I still don't like Balor. It's the weirdest thing. It's it's like it's nothing. Again, it is not a knock on Finn Balor. I respect Finn Balor, and this match really proved that he is a lot better as a heel than he is a babyface. So let's get to this match. So let me ask a question first. The very first thing in these promos was that he put NXT on the map. Do you agree that Finn Balor is the one that put NXT on the map? Yes or no?
Yes and no. I can kind of see, but, well, for one, he's a heel, so of course he's going to talk himself up.
Right.
But I think he's one of the top early faces of NXT, but not the only one.
True. I think Balor brought some eyes, but I feel like the biggest coup of anything NXT did was grabbing Nakamura. As far as just the amount of appeal that he had on such a large scale, and when he came over, it was, I mean, his match with Sami Zayn was tremendous. I mean, talk about getting faced like right off the bat. Him was huge. Owens, you didn't realize was going to be huge until he really made his mark.
Speaking of Sami Zayn's really someone you could argue is someone who put NXT on the map.
Well, Sami Zayn was one of the original guys who really started making that. You know, I think credit needs to go to Bo Dallas to some respect. As far as he was the first guy who ever really transcended or crossed planes from NXT to the main roster from his Rumble debut. Against Wade Barrett, and that was really when people started going, oh, well, NXT is actually a show that isn't just a reality show anymore. What's going on? You know, it's like it was just an interesting thought of like who are the big names who really got NXT to where it was. Joe has to get credit too. But anyway, let's talk about this match a little bit. God, it's hard to say anything about it. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, just took a little too long.
It just took a little too long. It's I wish that we had seen. I know Balor's such a great athlete, but I wish we had seen a little more fun heel cheating from Balor.
Yeah, that could have helped a little bit with the length of the match.
It would have gotten more I mean, Balor was getting cheered like hell. I would have liked to see him cheat and at least try to get some heat.
Yeah,
as a
it
heel.
was weird because the crowd was kind of for Balor and against Johnny, which, considering how the show ended, is kind of ironic.
And also worked better almost as a result.
Yeah.
You know, it was like with the way, so it even added to that fact, like Gargano could even make the claim later on, like, you clearly aren't behind me.
Yeah.
You know, and
honestly, my favorite part of the match, this is going to sound weird, but my favorite part of the match was how Finn Balor got the winning pinfall. Like he was just sitting on him with his hand on Gargano's jaw.
Yep. Just
complete and total dominance, posing at the camera.
And
I loved that.
And that DDT is the finish. I like 1,000 times better than the coup de grace.
Although, to be fair, he murdered Johnny Gargano with this coup de grace in this match.
He did. It was up. I don't really care for the coup. And I think that might be it. I don't care for the coup de grace. It's like, I understand that would do a lot of damage to somebody if you actually jumped on their chest. Like, I get that. But there's something about the double stomp.
Is much better.
I think the DDT is a much better finisher for him. And you know, who knows? Maybe with the way that Balor's going, he might start to grow on me the more I watch him if he continues this kind of stuff. Because this really was.
I already love him.
Yeah, this
I
might.
loved him before it was cool.
Yeah. Oh, you hipster, you. I really hate sling blades. It is not Finn Balor's fault. I just don't like the move. It makes no sense. If you're already taking him down with one arm, why would you bother switching to another arm? That's all I'm saying. It's just.
I loved the across the table John Woo drop kick onto the barricade. I thought that was a pretty cool spot.
That was a cool spot. You know, and what was the thing I really liked about this match is it was a lot more ground and pound for these two than you'd expect. And
it's insane to suggest that Dijakovic and Keithley got more hang time than Gargano and Balor.
Yeah. And that's, but I think that was a cool thing we would see the whole night, though. Nobody did each other's shit. It's like, and that was so refreshing because the thing, like with AEW and even the main roster is really guilty of this. The guys in the first match will do like an Asai moonsault or something like that, and then you'll see that moonsault in 3 other matches on the card. And because you've seen it the first time, you don't care nearly as much the second and the third and the fourth time.
Each match feels the same.
Exactly. And and it's just talent need to talk to each other about that kind of stuff beforehand. That's what it really boils down to. This was refreshing because nobody did the same stuff.
I feel like NXT is one of the few wrestling shows nowadays that keeps true to that. Each match feels different.
And
who's the best at doing it?
And I think this card specifically was a great example of that. And to have all the really high stuff coming at the beginning, and then to have Balor and Gargano really just slug it out, I thought was a really nice touch. And it also proved to me that Balor and Gargano are more than just jumpy guys.
Yeah.
You know, which obviously I've known for a long time they're not, but it's like if somebody was watching this and had only seen like 1 or 2 of their matches before, this was solid that these two are really quality talent.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we move to the second half of the show, and we get to our Women's Championship match. It is Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. And my big comment on this is I really liked Belair's shiny boots. Those boots were baller. I wouldn't wear them, but they were baller.
They were eye-catching.
Yes, they certainly were. And
I enjoyed this match, but it wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. But I do feel like that's because everything else on the show was as good as it was. It was kind of hard to compete.
This match could have used a heel.
Mm-hmm.
That was my big complaint about this. Bianca's over as...
It was insanely predictable.
Yeah. I mean, it was insanely predictable, but also I would have liked to have seen Bianca... I know that they're trying to build up Bianca Belair's babyface, which she should be, because she's doing very well with that.
One thing I thought was strange was in the in the promo package for this, they highlighted how she threw a lot of people out of the Royal Rumble. She lost the Royal Rumble
to Charlotte.
Yes.
And was eliminated by Charlotte.
Yeah.
Which would actually be nice if they were actually, God forbid, you ever think that maybe one day WWE will book long term? Because you think, I'm thinking if you use that and Charlotte, God forbid, she wins the NXT title, but she reigns as NXT champion for like 4 or 5 months or however, up to SummerSlam or whatever. Bianca Belair challenges us for it on SummerSlam against Charlotte and wins. You'd have.
I know some people say that we live in the darkest timeline right now, but Charlotte winning the NXT title would absolutely confirm that. Please don't scare me like that.
But if it were in the name, just hear me out. If it were in the name of really establishing Bianca Belair as a babyface, as the EST of NXT, if you really wanted to lengthen the way that you built feuds, it would suck at first. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But in the name of making Bianca Belair and really establishing her as a star, I wouldn't hate it. I don't want it. I don't necessarily want it, but I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
But I just don't trust them to book well that far.
Knowing them, they'd have Charlotte beat Rhea and Bianca.
I know that's the issue, but definitely Charlotte would be the person to establish Belair as a star with the whole hand to the. They've already got a lot of material for that feud. Like it's anyway. Let's get back to what's actually happening. I think there was a second suplex that ended up being a botch. It was hard to tell.
Yeah, she tried to go for a vertical standing or stalling suplex or something, but Rhea is just too big, which is funny because we were just talking about women being too small earlier.
I know. It's all about context, folks.
Why couldn't this have been the street fight?
That would have been fun.
Yeah, Rhea would have actually broken the table.
Yeah, it's and I thought Belair's dive, speaking of jumping and falling, Belair's dive looked great, and it meant more because of how few dives we'd seen that night.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, Rhea Ripley took that terrifying backdrop to the outside where I thought she broke both of her ankles when she landed.
Yeah, that was rough.
I was like, oh, stop doing that. I get it. You're 1 year older than... She's 1 year older than me. That blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
I'm just like, you're 23, and your ankles aren't always going to hold up like that.
Yeah, don't pull a page and don't end your career at 25. Seriously, longevity, folks. Mm-hmm. Longevity.
Watch out for dead ankles.
You know what makes me sad, though? WWE did I think it was maybe Bianca's Instagram or something like that, and it was her and Montez Ford, and they were doing things, but they had a photo shoot. That hair is a gimmick.
Oh!
I hate to be the one who breaks kayfabe here, folks.
No!
I hate to do this, but I am said this was a show made by Smarks for Smarks, and it is my obligation as a Smark to ruin your day.
Dude, it's snowing outside as we speak at my college, and you just ruined my day.
I hate to ruin your day. I should have given some spoilers, but the hair is a gimmick.
Why did I agree to do this?
Technical difficulties. Okay. Hello, everybody. We had a fun little technical thing happen. So, don't you just love technology, Mr. Geddon?
Yeah, but honestly, you deserve that for ruining the rest of my weekend.
I suppose that's fair. So, just in closing of this Rhea and Belair match, the ending was meh. Charlotte came out and cut a nice promo, which was nice to kind of keep the feud going, but...
She did her amazing finishing move, Natural Selection, that everyone loves because it looks so good.
Is that a little hint of sarcasm I'm hearing?
Just a tad.
Is it just... It might just be a small hint.
I'm more impressed that she did it in high heels.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. So then we get to the NXT Tag Title match. And so, first of all, I am no fan, and I hate when they do this, and WWE has done it so many times. I hate when they mash two individual wrestling entrances up into just like a collage of cut portions of that. it's like, just make a new theme if you want a theme for the two of them.
They finally did that for Kairi Sane and Asuka after, like, how many months?
Forever.
Yeah.
Too long.
But honestly, that doesn't bother me near as much as what Matt Riddle was doing during the entrance. What the hell was this?
I mean, what the fuck? I mean, Trips, you're better than this.
Like,
you know?
I honestly, okay, for those of you that don't know, on the show, when Matt Riddle came out, his whole thing is he's a bro. Bro is literally his favorite word. He came out and he was like, he tried to get the crowd to chant, how many fish could Bobby Fish fry? Bobby Fish could fish fry.
So he can't even say it. He can't. That's how dumb it was.
They literally had to put the words on the screen.
And they put subtitles with a dancing fish going on the subtitles.
This was the most main roster bullshit.
I had one promo and one thought come into my mind, and it was from a 2003 episode of Monday Night Raw, and it was Eric Bischoff going into the production truck after an ad for SmackDown had just played, and going up and yelling, "Kevin Dunn, what the hell was that?"
Dude, that was what I was thinking the entire time. I was just like, do you remember that one time when Enzo Amore was screaming at Sheamus and Cesaro, "We got that kryptonite," over and over and over again, and when Sheamus kicked him in the face, the crowd cheered? Yes. That's what that made me think of.
It was, this was not necessary. And it didn't make Matt Riddle look any good.
I love Matt Riddle, but this was just awful.
No, it was bad. And
but I will say that Nigel McGuinness kind of saved it, because later someone was working on Bobby Fish was working on either Pete Dunne or Matt Riddle's legs, and Nigel went, "How many legs did Bobby Fish break? Did Bobby Fish break legs?"
I know.
And I died laughing. I just about fell out of my chair.
No, yeah. Well, because leave it to Nigel McGuinness to actually get caught into that moment like that, and he could turn stuff around.
Make lemonade.
He's honestly, the whole commentary was on point the whole night. Yeah. Morrow was a tremendous talent. The second
Phoenix was good on the show.
Yeah, Morrow's the second coming of JR.
Yes.
Nigel McGuinness is just tremendous. Just from transitioning the way he did from athlete to in ring, and then Beth was on point. She's really come a long way on commentary.
Yeah, she really has.
And
aside from us dumping on the entrances for this match, the match itself was actually pretty good.
God, O'Reilly is a 5-star talent, isn't he?
Oh my God, yes.
He is so good. I mean, Bobby Fish is great too. I like the daddy gray hairs on Bobby Fish.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that actually made him look a lot more intimidating of a talent.
Although I will say, objectively, this was a good match. But because of that stupid opening promo, I could not get into this match until like the last 5 minutes.
I hear you. Sometimes they ruin it before they even get the chance.
Yeah,
and that's not Matt Riddle's fault either. He probably got that from somebody.
I messaged you this when it was happening. I was like, are they punishing him? Are they trying to make him sound like an idiot?
Yeah, because it seriously was like, and you never know, because that could actually be the case. I'm just speculating.
But if they were punishing him, why did they give him the tag team titles and give him the winning pinfall?
We'll have to see how much more Bobby Fish fries we get between now and the next time these teams face each other.
You want him to learn a lesson, or you're going to give him title belts? Like, which one is it? This is an abusive relationship.
Yeah, who knows? And there was the only thing I really didn't like about this match is a modern tag wrestling thing that everyone does, and it's the back slap tag. Mm-hmm. When people just slap your partner's back, and all of a sudden that counts as a tag, rather than actually just giving your hand out and hitting a tag like an actual tag.
So what you're saying is tagging requires consent.
I would feel like it should a little bit more than it does. Occasionally is not a problem, but it's in every match.
Yeah.
It's in, and unless you're AEW, in which case there are no tags. Everyone just runs around and does what they need to do. And, but we're not talking about AEW.
One of my favorite spots in the match is when Kyle is on Matt Riddle's back with a sleeper hold.
Yep.
And Matt Riddle does a knee strike on Bobby Fish with the guy on his back.
Yeah, that was cool. And, and I honestly like the Broserweights as a team. I didn't at first, but they've grown on me. You know,
they stopped doing like Dr. Seuss rhymes before matches, then I would like them a lot more.
yeah, it was. The only thing I want to see is better tags from the Broserweights, but otherwise, I thought this was a great match and it was a fun finish. But let's no more anime fish. Can we just leave that away?
When I watch NXT, I don't want to think I'm watching Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, just I smelled I smelled this foul stench of too much production.
It was so bad. It was. I could smell Vince McMahon through my monitor when that was happening.
Yeah,
it was that bad.
And then we move on to the main event, which and even though the crowd was hot for that match too, but the crowd was hot all night. We said it all night. The crowd was super hot all night. Great crowd, Portland. Good for you. I want more crowds like that. More, which also requires good product. So I guess that's kind of a dual situation. But Cole and Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship. This was great. This was great.
This was probably my second favorite match of the night.
I understand.
I really can't pick between the first match and this match because they were both awesome.
It was a bookend show. There's no doubt about that. It was a bookend show, but it was still a very fun show.
That wheelbarrow suplex on the table.
Fun.
Was disgusting.
Fun. And you know what I really liked? One thing I was really impressed with this match, and I wanted to talk about this and forgot to in the opening match, but because we're talking about the bookends, one thing that these two did in this match was when they went to the outside, right? And they did on like then that the pull through German onto the announce table, and all that kind of stuff, which was crazy.
Yes.
Cole and Ciampa made a point to roll back into the ring and break up the count several times.
Yeah. Yes.
We didn't see that in the first match, and Nigel had to cover.
Yes. He said the referee is using his discretion.
His leniency, and I hated that because the worst thing you can do in a match is take the piss out of the referee. And make the referee illegitimate. Do you remember that pay-per-view? It might have been, it wasn't Hell in a Cell, but it was the match that it was Miz and Shane in the cage. And the referee...
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about.
The referee made the rope break once and then didn't the other time. And remember how sour that whole show was?
Oh, my God.
If when you take the piss out of the officiating, it delegitimizes the entire show.
If your rules for a match are inconsistent within the match itself, then it's just not going to be entertaining to watch. You're going to be watching a confusing match.
And it's in that vein that when Lee and Dijakovic went to the outside to do those double chops, which sounded awesome.
Yes.
And they got the whole crowd to silence themselves, which was also great. But it would have taken less than 2 seconds for Keithley to run back in and run back out.
Yeah.
Well,
he's the big boy, so it probably would have taken 4 seconds.
I know. Okay, fair. But don't put the ref in a spot like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't do that disservice to your ref, because your ref is just as important to the match as the talent.
Yeah.
But they made sure not to do that. And I think that also might just be an experience thing with Keithley and Dijakovic, just from what WWE does and how refined they make their training. So I think that that's going to come to both of them in time. These two, Cole and Ciampa, obviously professional. Like, obviously better. Yeah. It's a small thing, but it's an important thing.
There's one thing in this match that I did not like. Adam Cole did a gosh dang Panama Sunrise off of the announce table. And Tommaso, like 10 seconds later, started doing offense.
Hated that. It's overall selling.
A Canadian destroyer on the floor. You should be dead.
That's a selling problem just in general with wrestling.
That was like my biggest problem with the match. But other than that, I loved it.
Yeah, but there was like the 6 clotheslines in a row was cool. God, I'm looking at all. It's everything was so different with this. The neck selling that Ciampa did throughout was great. I thought that they played that well.
I love how Tommaso was just dominating the match until Adam did that insane wheelbarrow German into the announce table.
Yeah.
And then he just took over. I love that.
Yeah, no.
That's storytelling, ladies and gentlemen.
The pacing was terrific. Ciampa's facials are grade A. When the Undisputed Era came in, that added heat, which was great. The last shot roll to the ropes was beautiful. There were 3 Fight Forever chants tonight in 3 separate matches.
That's when you know, Sean.
That's when you know that you've made yourself a good quality. You know, say what you want about how long these matches went, but all in all, it was, and then Johnny.
Then a surprise, shocking finish.
Johnny comes to help, quote unquote help Tommaso Ciampa, has the NXT title in his hands, and then looks at the title and looks back at Ciampa and kind of thinks back to all that's happened, and then hits Ciampa in the head. Adam Cole retains the NXT Championship because Johnny Gargano, I wrote down Johnny no.
Johnny no.
It was honestly, it was a turn. It was a heartbreaking turn, but it was. I
do think it's interesting that we're going to get Johnny versus Tommaso again, except with the roles reversed.
I'm so excited. I'm legit so excited where they take this. This is honestly, you could argue that between last year and this year, as far as, or the last 3 years when Ciampa and Gargano first started, it is probably the best told rivalry potentially ever. Save for Austin and McMahon, save for Hogan and Piper, and save maybe for Shawn and Brett, and maybe for Triple H and Shawn. But I think that these two are surpassing Triple H and Shawn. Because, surprise, surprise, guess who's producing these matches? Triple H and Shawn. So,
yeah, they know a thing or two.
So, God, it was.
I just hope that they finish this without either of them getting injured.
Yeah, I'd like to see a true finish, but I think it was because Tommaso got injured that they decided to keep going with this.
Yeah.
And that's what intrigues me. So sometimes it's a happy accident. At least for us, obviously not for the 8 months that Ciampa was out, but
like we were talking about earlier, though, Bianca Belair match was kind of predictable. Reason why I loved this match, and
you didn't know
the Keithley and Dijakovic match, although you could kind of tell that Keithley was going over, but most of the matches on this show, it was kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, and you don't see enough of that nowadays either. And this has been so. Overall, what is your final thought on Takeover Portland? Now that we've trudged through begrudgingly, I've spoiled things for you. You've had somewhat of a moderate time here. What is your final thoughts?
You made me cry on a day that it's snowing. So just remember that.
That's right.
He is a cruel man.
But you know they're tears of joy because you had the honor of being on the Court Martial podcast. I understand. I would also be overcome with emotion.
Tears of joy. My left eye is tears of sadness.
I'm impressed you're able to differentiate the two. Yeah. Like, oh, happy tears go over here, sad tears go over here. All right, let's go.
Yeah, my overall thoughts. I don't know if I would call this the best takeover of all time, but it's definitely up there.
It's up there. I would agree. It's definitely up there from ones I've seen. I mean, NXT's been around now for 6 years in the form it's been in, and
that's insane.
And
NXT's been around for like 6 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, and this definitely was a great way to really start how NXT is going to go into the next decade, into 2020. So exciting times. But as with that said, Joshageddon, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I guarantee you this is not going to be the last time you're going to be on the show.
Yeah, probably not.
So,
I just hope you don't spoil another aspect of my life.
Well,
next time you're on.
No guarantees, but but be sure to check out all of Joshageddon's stuff. As I said, the link's in the description. With that said, we have to take our very first commercial break. And when we get back, we are going to talk about a variety of new topics, what's going on in the week. We're going to be only a day away, or it's going to be on the day of the Saudi Arabia show, so we'll see what happens there. But with that said, thank you very much for listening, everybody, and we will be right back.